And hey, everybody. We're here. I'm here with Eric Oakland. We're going to be talking about games tonight. More specifically, Eric's games. Uh, not just any games, the best ones. The one that Eric made. Yeah.
My game.
Uh, yeah. So, Eric, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My family is just getting home, so I'm just typing a quick message to do not disturb.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're at business time. Uh,
Do
yeah,
you,
so my name's Eric Oakland. I have been a creative for a very long time, from being graphic designer, art director. I've had a video production company here or there. And last year, I transitioned into the role of game designer. Um, my my kids and I, when they were 5 and 8 during the pandemic, came up with some games that we'd like to play. It had some rubric to it, and I had sort of collected them and gathered them and shared them with some friends with the intent of maybe someday publishing it. But I kept putting it off and putting it off. And last year, I was able to connect with enough other kind of designers and kind of just say, hey, I need to figure out how to do this. And got the encouragement I needed to jump both feet in to the zine month pool,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of fun, and it was a success, and a lot of great connections and stories and anecdotes have come since then. And so I'm gonna make some more. Let's just decide I'm gonna make some more stuff. But yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, so everybody knows me. I don't need to introduce myself. But
Everybody.
everybody. But yeah, so let's get it right into it. Let's talk about Rumino. Do you want to talk about the base game first, or do you want
Yeah.
to talk, yeah, tell us about the base game.
Yeah. So I think it's good to start with the base because it's sort of the basics. I Part of this was like minimal viable product. Like, what is the smallest thing that kids and either their parents or their teachers need to like introduce them to role playing games? And I didn't come down to this very basics because I'm the most intelligent person in the world, but because my 5 year old and my 8 year old told me what they wanted, and we did that. And so it um, it was a funny story. My kids were kind of hanging out on the lawn with the next door neighbor kid who was like 14 at the time, so like almost twice their age. And that 14-year-old was telling them about an escape room that he had done with some friends. And you could probably imagine what a 5 and 8 year old who have no context outside of what a 14-year-old tells them escape room is. uh, they stepped away from that conversation, and one of them said to the other, tell me an escape room. And they just started telling each other escape rooms. And so very quickly, a room became a very key part of these games that we would play. And it would start off, all right, you're in a room, and they would describe the room, and they would put one thing in the room. That would be, it could be a lake with a boat. It could be a flower. It could be a table full of their favorite food. And so it became very simple setup, a room with one thing in it. And then you ask the other person, what do you want to do? And it is all bets off. Anything you can imagine,
Mm,
you can do. And so then it became like navigating kind of the what we call mediate, right? To, well, what happens when you do that thing? What
yeah.
could happen? How much do I want to restrain this, or how much do I want to just let it go? Um, and then inevitably rewarding that curiosity, rewarding that imagination, they'd get a new pet, or find some candy or a key that could be used in a chest down the road, that sort of thing. And so
Hmm.
the basics of Let's Go to Rumino is this 5 step kind of rule set that teaches you how to just build a room let them play in it, and then resolve it in some way. And part of that resolution is, all right, there's a door to another room, and you repeat the process. So it's, a little bit like a dungeon crawler in that you're just kind of moving from room to room. It's a little bit like dominoes, where you're just moving from domino to domino,
Oh yeah,
which is somewhat of where that kind of the name Roomino came from, is that it's these room dominoes. So it's very free flowing. One room doesn't have to make any sense connected to another room. In fact, for young kids, that can be part of the wonder of it, is that it makes no sense. And because sense requires a lot of lifelong learned context to know what makes sense or not, and kids don't have that.
yeah. That's interesting. That's an interesting thought. I really like that. Where it's like, yeah, it really doesn't matter because they have no context, anyways.
No, I mean, as I've talked to other people who know more than I do about like childhood development, like story even gets in the way somewhat because kids don't know plots. Like we've all grown up on, like after a bunch of times watching movies and reading books or whatever, you get to know like, oh, this sort of thing happens and there's an arc and that sort of stuff. Kids don't have any of that. And so sometimes if you try and set up like an arc and think that they're going to resolve it, that they're going to like connect the dots, they don't. They punt it left and then you have to go on another direction. So
Yeah.
um, sometimes it's inhibiting to try and have too much of what adults want
Mm,
out of a game and try and cram that into a kid game.
right. Yeah. What was that like a challenge for you when you were creating the Rumino, when because it was like, oh, am I adding too much?
At first, no, because I think that's where um, my kids kind of directed it for me. Like they were the first ones telling these rooms and kind of saying, "All right, now we're going here and now we're going there." And then some of it came out of like kids' interests change all the time. One day, my son's loving dinosaurs. The next day, it's trucks. Then it's ninjas. My daughter's liking princesses, then kitties, and then unicorns, and then the next day mermaids. And so their interests change. And so trying to hold on to too much continuity didn't make sense. It was just, all right, what kind of room do we want to explore now? In fact, one of the mechanics of the game when starting a session of Let's Go to Rumino or Explore
Mhm.
Rooms games was presenting them with a bunch of doors that they could go through. And this was from like almost the very beginning. And it started off with like, there's a blue door, an orange door, and a yellow door. And you can think of this in a couple of ways. One, I kind of think of it as like a loading screen because we would play these off the cuff. And so it's like, all right, I'm going to give you your first decision to like buy some time.
Yeah.
What door do you want to pick? And now I'm trying to connect. Okay, I said a blue door, that could be water. I said an orange door, that could be a party of all orange balloons and everything that's orange.
Mhm.
And then I said a yellow door, that could be flowers or something like that. And so you kind of give them something to chew on while I'm processing potential, kind of just
Right.
find another word to connect to, right? Or an idea to connect to. And then the other way you can do that is you can say, all right, well, this yellow door has a flower on it. This orange door has a balloon on it. And the blue door has a wave of water on it. And now you're giving them prompts to kind of tell you what kind of adventure they want to go on. And so a little bit of this was just like hitting a ball back and forth, right? We're just playing catch with words
Mhm.
and trying to then turn that into an experience inside of this space of rooms and puzzles. So again, with kids leading and not having the inhibitions of like trying to take D&D or some other game and like simplify it where you've got a ton of constraints, really it kind of was like if it didn't work, it got bounced right away.
Yeah.
Um, and so kind of designing from scratch was pretty, it just kind of it all worked out. Everything that was supposed to be in there was in there. Now, as I've written some other books that are kind of to supplement that. I've explored like, fantasy settings and space settings.
Hmm.
I think me as an adult, I've naturally added some story elements into it, but I've had to be very careful not to, I guess, and I don't know if I've succeeded, but not to be too heavy handed with it.
Hmm.
Still not necessarily like full plots and arcs, but a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so like in the first book, I created fantasy. There is a room that you go into, and this is where I first started kind of, and this is kind of a preview of one of the book's rigs. Uh, but I started putting these rooms in groups, rigs.
Oh, okay.
And this room has a flower in it. And this flower is called Bloomaveria. So you give some of it is you create these little seeds, like, hey, here's a big flower character, and it gave it a name, and you get to meet this flower character. Well, the puzzle is Bloomaveria needs three things instead of one thing. And you can visit these other rooms to get those things and bring them back, and then you get a resolution. And
Okay.
so in connecting puzzles across rooms, um, or in this case, just sending them to another room to solve a puzzle, sending them to this room to solve a puzzle, this room to solve a puzzle, and then coming back, it all resolves. And now I've told a little story of how they've helped a flower get ready for her big bloom, right? Um, so there's an arc in that, like, but I didn't have to be too heavy with it. She needed three things to feel comfortable with her bloom, and they went and got those three things. So
Are
yeah.
they specific things, or they just like get three types of things?
In this case, I got specific, and maybe this is where some of the pressure of creating seeds for people through the books. There's a little bit of pressure to like give them some concrete things,
Yeah.
to feel like they've gotten something out of the book. Um, there's some rooms that I create that are sort of like, okay, here's the room and here's the one thing in it. You decide what the right action
Mhm.
or thing to do for your kids is. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of leaving it up to them and then trying to give them something that they could walk through if they wanted to. And so in this case, the flower hadn't seen the bees in a long time to help her pollinate. Um, the she had her source of water was missing and had dried up, and she had a friend that was supposed to come and watch the big bloom, and he hadn't shown up yet. So they went into one room and found that the bees were. I don't want to spoilers.
Oh no.
They
Oh,
figured
so
out.
like, so
Yeah,
the each problem had a specific room for it. Okay,
yep,
so you wrote out the room for it. Okay.
yep, yep. So there's yeah, and so that's sort of this. There's this push and pull because on one hand, there's some people where I can give them the 5 steps, reveal a room, put one thing in that room, offer space for the kids to react to that room, resolve or sorry, mediate what happens when they take that action or perform that action, and then resolve it, or sorry, surrender all of the things that you'd have, the exit, the treasure, the candy, whatever it is, and they can make up infinite stuff, right? Like they can just go with it. And I know there's others who need more examples and more hand holding and more maybe like a very concrete walkthrough to do it a couple of times before they can soar. And so there's that little bit of like, on one hand, you can download those 5 steps for free on my website, and have a little adventure there. Or the books, I try and create enough like examples and
Right.
templates for you to do it, with the books, and then be able to do it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, there's also that kind of like theory where like the more restrictive you are, the more creativity kind of goes, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, if you're like restrictive in some because like just handing someone a blank piece of paper and being like, draw anything you want. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. No, totally, totally.
That could be a lot, but it's just like, all right, draw this like thing, but then that's it.
Yep.
Um,
Or
I
you
mean,
you say, hey, here you're in a here's what is one of these? Uh, there's a fairy circle made of mushrooms, and in the middle of it is an egg. And so then you say, okay, what do you do with that? Now you've given them something specific to react to, right? You've
yeah,
prompted them.
what does the egg look like and that kind
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, I love doing that kind of stuff. Like I do that in Good Soup where I just list things that I don't even like. It's just tables, which
yeah.
is the creativity part, and it's just stuff that I don't even know I was
You don't
talking
have the
about.
answer to it, or yeah, how it applies.
Like I did like Summer Troll is one of my favorites, or Hot Goose is like, is it like
Yeah,
cooked or is
it's like
it
attractive.
attractive goose?
is
And so
it is it goose summer? Hot goose summer?
it's Hot Goose Summer, yes. Um But yeah, so like I call that breadcrumbing, where it's just like you just give
Yeah,
enough to like spark like the idea and like kind of direct the player into like what you kind of want them to like, how you want them to think, but
yeah,
like not too much where it's just like a railroaded like,
yeah.
don't worry about imagination today. I have that all for you.
Yes.
Um,
Well, and I think that that's where too, like, getting kids involved in the creation. Like you could say, like that egg. There's an egg. What does that egg look like? And they're not going to be like, oh, wait a minute, that's your job. You're the GM. They're just going to tell you stuff,
they
right?
already
Like
know. Yeah.
they already know what it looks like. And so having it more of a conversation, or so yeah, there's a lot of seeds in here. Like a lot of these, like pages that like every location has a bunch of characters or creatures
Mhm.
because it's just meant to be like prompt to be like your kid's gonna love this confectionery fox. So figure out how you want to put it in there. Or this smash-a-lotl dragon, is beating a bunch of drums. What kind of rhythm is it beating out? Like that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. Like you just give them. I'm just trying to find every way I can think of in a book to give them a seed, either just the seed or a whole flower or a whole garden of flowers
Right.
to be able to deliver an experience between them and their kiddo.
Yeah. I think I think the a big challenge for that is really like you're creating a game for the kids, but like writing the rules for the parent to be able to play this
Yeah,
game, because like we said, like the kids already could, they're just like, oh, it's like a purple egg with pink dots, and they're just, they already know what it
yeah,
is. But like as adults, we're cursed with knowledge, so we're like, oh
yeah,
no, how does a game work, and are we allowed to have it be a
yeah,
purple egg and that kind of thing? Yeah. Where kids are
yeah,
like, I don't know.
yeah. I had this. I was talking on a Discord today about art and about some art that I had done for this as I was doodling, and I was working in a app called Good Notes, which is not an art drawing app; it's a writing app, right? Or scribbling and note taking. And so like the tools for like markers and stuff are not fine tuned. But I was just free form, like doing layouts and mock-ups and thumbnails. And so I just had blobs of color as I was trying to think of like the forms that are included in this upcoming books. And when I had these blobs of sort of rough shapes, then I went in with like the fine felt tip marker shape or whatever, and I drew in details. And it started bringing it together so that when I went to my art programs, I could like put like serious shape and serious things together, etc. But I still wanted to keep that. I really liked how it felt to like start with a broad brush, like literally a broad brush, and then refine it as a little bit more information came into focus, and then add a little more detail when this came into focus. And I think that that's where the 5 steps sort of try and give you a very like narrow tunnel to go down.
Mhm.
Is that first thing you do is just describe a room. And when we play this, it'd be on a walk, or it would be, or you think about what you think about what do the kids love. Like if it's mermaids, and you're like, okay, we're gonna be our room is in a coral ballroom, and there is a mermaid in the ballroom dressed up, ready to dance. Right? You can get pretty like specific, but like you could hear me just kind of saying, okay, what's the next piece of information that I need to put out there into the world until I can say, now you go.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot, right? It could be I'm in an octagon shaped room. Why octagon? I don't know, a shape. And there's um, wallpaper all over every wall. And there's hearts on the wallpaper. It's pink and red. And one heart is blue. What do you do? Right? Like it's the I try and give with these 5 step rules is like, no, it's not world building. It is literally building the next step in front of you. Um, because you're gonna trust yourself that you're gonna come up with the next thing, and trust your kids that they're gonna fill in any blanks that you need them to.
Right.
They're gonna give you stuff to play off of.
For sure. Yeah, with like I find it interesting cuz like creating puzzles can be a challenge sometimes, like if it's a puzzle
Mhm.
room, and
Yeah,
it also kind of defines like a specific thing that the players have to do to get a certain way.
yeah,
But like I guess you can make it so it's kind of flexible. I was like, yeah, and then or you step on a tile and something
yeah.
else
Well,
happens.
and
Or yeah.
again, I'm kind of playing with a cheat code a little bit because I'm designing for kids who again don't have a ton of context in the world,
Yeah.
are don't even like the puzzle of tying their shoe may or may not have been completed. The puzzle of sitting on the toilet and for the duration that they need to may not be completed. And so some of it is teaching, like, so I use the word puzzle broadly. Like some of it is, okay, I'm going to come up with a word. I want you to come up with a word that matches it. So I'm going to say elephant. What word would you come up with to match that or that's related?
Tusk.
There you go. So I could easily create a puzzle that is like, um, they find an elephant, but it's missing tusks, and or it's missing its teeth, and they have to go and find tusks. Like,
Mm.
or if I give them a button, then pushing the button is the puzzle, right? If I give them a paintbrush that's green or paint that's green,
Mm.
and they've got a
Yeah.
tree, there's an outline of a tree and an outline of a gorilla, what do? And maybe they paint green on the tree, right?
Yeah.
The puzzle is can be super simple for kids because this sometimes the smallest just connection is tough because kids are at
Right.
different
Yeah.
developmental stages.
I
So
forget that these rooms are literally just like the thing you need to interact with.
yeah, and this is and so yeah, when you're starting young, like 3 years old, 4 years old, you're giving them a very and you can do it, you can start very concrete, like there's a keyhole and you have a key. What do you do with it, right? And they put the key in the keyhole. Um, you can make it more abstract. You can say, like you have a green paintbrush and there's an outline of a tree, right? There's a little bit of a distance there. You could say, you have, um, you have a yellow flower and in front of you are, three um, flower rings. One's yellow, one's white, one's blue, one's pink. And in your head, you've decided which one's the right answer, but there's no like real strong context clues.
Mm.
And then they go and they succeed or they fail. And then you say, oh nope, it didn't work that time. And then they keep trying until they get it, right? So
Yeah.
you can stretch conceptually the distance between how close the problem and solution are to each other, how obvious they are versus how abstracted they are. So as kids age, you can pull those apart a little bit. Excuse me. And that's sort of the premise of the Riggs book, is that it's starting to move. And what I showed you with like that Blumavaria puzzle
Hmm.
was that you can start separating them by space, right? Now
Okay.
they're 2 rooms apart. And for a 4-year-old, that might be really hard. They might just forget that they found something in one room and that they have to go to the other room, and whatever they
Mm.
find in the other room is connected. That, like object impermanence sort of thing.
Yeah.
But for a 7-year-old, they might be like, "Ooh, I remember. We have this," and that feels like they feel really clever. They feel really
Yeah.
smart for connecting those things. And then you can work and stretch it out further. You can interrupt one puzzle with a different puzzle. Oh, I know you got this thing and you're looking for this thing over here, but I've got a puzzle for you here that now you got to switch gears and think about something else. And then do you remember that? And that can also feel like you have to like build ahead of time.
Right.
But some of that is just realizing the order in which you're focusing on things, right? If in one room, you got to focus on the room itself, then what one thing you put in there, and then you hands off, let the kids decide how they're going to interact with it. Then you decide how you want to mediate it. Does that thing explode? Does it hug them? Does it turn colors? Does it change them into different colors? You can come up with a bunch of different things just based off of whatever comes to mind in the moment. And I don't want to diminish, like improv is not necessarily easy or what everybody's
Right.
into, but also you're not in front of an audience, and kids are just giddy for silly, right? Um, and then so you're doing that one thing after another. Same thing can be true for this. You can be okay. You found an elephant tusk, but you've not seen an elephant so far. You don't know what it's connected to. You
Mm.
put it in your bag, and now maybe later you're like, oh, there's an elephant and it's missing a tusk, and you can give that. Now they'll be like, oh, I remember, I've got that tusk. I'll give it back to them. So
Yeah.
you can put stuff as rewards to a room that you don't know what they solve, but you're creating
Hmm.
your own prompts for yourself for down the
Yeah.
road to complete.
That's cool. Yeah. So is that what all of Rigs and Races is about? What's the races?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so initially it was a little bit of like these other books are sequels to Let's Go to Roomino, and I wanted to start like as my kids aged up, the one room, one problem was not enough, right? They needed a little bit more, and so part of some of my problem I'm trying to solve is, well, how do I give parents the tools to tweak that up and down? Because sometimes you go too far and you frustrate the kid, or you like try to make it
Mm.
too complex and they're like, the kid doesn't respond to it. So you're like, okay, how do I dial it back? So some of Riggs is about just giving them the tools to like tweak and dial up and down, right? Well, another thing then, and I'll say to this point, everything's sort of yes and everything's permissible and you always succeed. Even if you don't, this this isn't
Nice. It's
this
my
isn't
kind of game.
if this is the power fantasy to top all power fantasies. You are always
Yeah.
right. Um, and that's one of those two things, right? Like if you put down something, an object, you could decide that whatever they decide to do to the object is the right answer. Like you don't have to make it hard, right? Anyway, so everything's right. Like we're just having a whimsical trip uh, through Rumino. But my kids struggled with losing at games. If we were riding our bikes and I got a little bit ahead of my son, tears. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's so
The
so
worst.
jumping them into to when I tried to introduce my kids to D&D, like they didn't want harm to come to their character. So my daughter, like, they'd get into a fight and my son would be like, I got this, we got this, and my daughter would be like, I'm out. She'd just eject herself from the game. Because she's like, if I don't play, nothing bad can happen to my character.
If I never play, I never lose.
Yes. So I hadn't created something successfully in the time that we were playing this at the height of explore rooms, and playing with them. And so I wanted to create a way to introduce success and failure in a bunch of padded ways. I often call one of the ways I talk about Roomino in a marketing sense is a marshmallow dungeon crawler. Like,
Mm.
this is, imagine a dungeon, but all the rooms are padded, all the sharp edges are rounded, uh, and so what does failure feel like when the consequence is getting squished by an avalanche of stuffed animals? Right? Does
Mm.
that feel bad? Or if failing at if you have if your resources become limited, right? You can't use your entire imagination. It shrinks down, but maybe you lose one of your tools.
Yeah,
Is that, how bad does that feel? Right? Can we do little losses? Can we do little things to take away, but still give them advancement?
right.
What is it like?
It's the no but, not
No,
the
but
no.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Or can I give them tools that let them escape like almost like lives in Mario, right? Can I give them a tool that lets them, if they fail, they can whip this out. It will push them to the next room so they can try again, but they know that they've lost one of their chances and they've got a limit of those, right?
Mhm.
Um, can I put other clocks or take some things from other games that kind of give it again limit the resource of either time or imagination or um, chances to guess a right answer before they have to do it over. And I think that's another part, is like do-overs can be a part of this. um, so races is about introducing success and failure for kids in ways that are silly. I'm trying to think of, I've been using the term briefly of failing sideways. Um, you've heard of failing forward, where like, hey, you fail, but it advances the story. That could work. And I'll probably implement some of that. But what if it's just, okay, you don't get that. And now you have been rocketed up to space where a giant goo monster is ready to watch a movie with you. Like, is that good? Is that bad? Is that just, that's
Yeah.
just sideways? You're in a whole other plot line now.
Yeah.
And maybe you're loving it.
I love the introduction of like gray area where it's like it's not good or bad. Because this is life. There is no good or bad. If
Yeah.
it like I've been working on that on my Warped FM game where it's like I made all the numbers. Like if you do a certain amount of complete a certain amount of objectives, you get like a solo journaling outcome or
Hmm.
whatever. But each outcome is like I guess there's theoretically maybe a bad answer, but I put it in a different number every single time.
Hmm.
So it's like it doesn't really it just happens, you know?
Yeah.
It's not there's no good bad. There's like, oh, and then this happens now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, like, as we graduate towards stories, like teaching stories and integrating kids role playing into stories in my progression of things, like a setback is a pretty fun part of a story, right? If once we start getting to the concept of arcs and like payoff and reward and things that feels really good if you actually struggle through something, right? It's more rewarding if something's hard, than if it's just easy. And so that's sort of the thing I want to play with, is those
Right.
concepts of of a little bit of struggle, a little bit of it's a little bit tough, or has some unexpected things, but it's also, just supposed to be fun. Yeah, the other piece of that is like cooperation. Like if you're playing, you are racing with your sibling, not against your sibling, because your siblings might be older than you and they get all the right answers, and it's not fair that they always get all the right answers. So now you're teaming up with your sibling against the avalanche of of stuffed
Mhm.
animals, and if you don't succeed, you failed together, right? And that can be a better feeling than if you're competing directly with another person at the table.
Yeah. There's also the study of like losing something feels like feels a lot worse than the sense of winning, you know? So it's like it's trying to like say like for example, if say you're in a race and instead of you going like back, like get pushed back in the race, everybody just moves forward a little
Mhm.
bit.
Yeah,
That feels better than like, oh, I am set back. It's like, oh no, everybody
yeah,
is just
yeah. I think I'm working with this idea too of the distance between you and the threat. I don't know, whatever,
yeah.
and how does it get closer versus, or how do you move further? Like that constant tension of like how close is that threat? Um, so there's another version of it I want to play with where your kiddos, your ruminants are what I call nom nombies, which are, when a kid gets hangry,
Yeah.
and their rationale is just gone. I mean, that's a zombie to me. And so the most important thing to do is feed that kid. And so your ruminants are nombies, nom nombies, and they have to chase after their favorite snacks that are running away from them. So there's a bit of how can they catch up to them, or do their snacks get away, right?
Yeah.
Um, so not always being chased, but sometimes being the one chasing, right?
Yeah, that's fun.
So yeah, just playing with the perspective of it to make this an easier thing for kiddos to kind of wrestle with.
Cool. Yeah. Do we want to segue into playing a little bit?
Sure. Um, and I will say I have more. I think the rigs, I have more kind of concrete stuff under my belt. The races is still a little bit more abstracted, and I think it, in some ways, sticks more closely to the room to room vibe. But I don't know if I don't have as much play testing of that under my belt. Um,
We could do whatever you want.
well, so let me come to you and pick your flavor. Are you more of a space dude or a fantasy dude?
Ooh, I am a space person.
Okay,
I got
then
the
we're good.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy tattoo on my arm and stuff.
Oh,
I
nice.
am a
Very cool. Very cool.
space
All right.
cadet.
So the first thing I'm going to do with you is that we're going to build our own rig. Because not only can rigs be places that you go and can visit, like a multi-room puzzle, but they can also be, like in this case, a spaceship that's made of a bunch of rooms,
Mhm.
right? So I'm trying to use the rooms as the building block for everything. The same way that I sometimes too often try to make everything alliteration, or I too often try and fit things into acronyms. I'm going to try and fit every dang thing into a room to room format. So
Nice.
within that's the building, that's the
You could
Legos
do a
puzzle.
promo and be like, "Does it Rumino?"
Can I Rumino this thing?
Curse of Straw. Does it Rumino?
Well, and so this is where These spaceships, I created a few.
Oh, I
Just
love that. Yeah,
I
yeah,
created some outlines, some silhouettes, and then I filled them with different rooms that you
yeah. Oh,
could do.
nice.
So let me ask you this first: what would the shape of your spaceship be?
Pogo stick.
Pogo stick spaceship, and is I'm gonna say first off then. So pogo sticks got kind of the handles. It's got a stem, two places for the feet, and then it's got a skinnier stem at the bottom with a little thing. Um, we've got we want to find out what the engine room, the control room, and the cargo room of the pogo stick are.
Yeah. So the engine room is near the bottom. It's the tinier stem.
What and what
Um,
would you say propels your room, your
springs.
spaceship? So you've got a spring room.
Yeah.
You've got a spring room that's your engine room.
Yeah. Um,
Um, and we'll flesh that out a little bit more in a minute. In controls, how do you control your pogo stick spaceship flying through space? Are you inside the pogo stick, or are you in a spacesuit riding on a pogo stick?
um,
Like, are is
yeah.
your is you are you like in Spaceballs, where like there's a
I
spaceship that's a big, you know?
helmet. Um, yeah. So if the spaceship is a big pogo stick, I imagine the captain is the control panel is, well, not the captain, but the person guiding the ship. The control panel is like a Dance Dance Revolution pad, but
Perfect.
it's just one button that you just jump
Jump
up
up and
and down.
down. But there's nuances to it, right? To jump
Yeah,
a little bit this way or jump a little this
or
way
double jump. Yeah,
or double
it's
jump.
just
Nice.
a quick, fast.
Well, we do have a couple options. We got a button panel room. So yours would be a panel but just one button that you can
Yep.
stand on.
Hmm.
Some other options are tractor cab, or a TV wall, or a drum kit. So there's some options there. We've got springs now. Cargo. How do you haul cargo? And in this one, I use kind of like like Star Trek would have the beam technology.
Oh yeah.
Or do you want to use a hand or a claw, or do you want to just bounce on a thing and it gets pulled into the ship?
My brain is saying it's gonna be kind of like, like how Pokemon, when you get a Pokemon, it zoops into like this weird
Yeah,
quantum space.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but they're like, it's canned things, so like the peanut brittle snakes, where you open
Mm,
up the can of peanut brittle and the snakes pop
which is
out.
it's springy, right?
Yeah, so we can everything. So you bring us your shipment, and then we quantum place it into a can with the label.
Okay. I wanted to yell out Pokemon as
Oh
a
yeah, that's good.
instead of Pokey. So you got snakes in cans as your quantum storage, and that stuff can fit anywhere. You got infinite space for that kind of
Infinite
stuff,
cans.
because I was assuming you can put those inside of other cans in until.
Yeah. I mean, it does get tricky though, because if it ever like punctures or leaks, the whole thing will explode out of the
Okay.
can.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna try and improv this. I'm not even gonna pull from the book because I don't want to.
Good luck.
So you are in the engine room of your pogo stick ship, and this room is full wall to wall with springs. Most of them are in a tightened, or they're wanting to come together and be pressed, because that's how your engine works, by pressing together and then letting go. But in the center of the room, there is a very strong furry alien with its arms stretched out wide, hand on each wall, keeping it from closing. What do you do?
What do I do? Um, well, these aliens are a common occurrence because they are very light sleepers. So um, they don't like us bouncing around the universe because they can't sleep with the something
Yeah.
about the high sound of the springs, recoiling. Yeah, yeah, it just drives them nuts.
They're fine with other forms of
The
space travel, but the spring, pogo springs, not their
the
favorite.
pogo springs, yeah. And it's like they're all sleeping on, like foam mattresses. They can't
Mm.
they can't
They
handle any kind of springs. Uh, so what I bring out as the captain is our designated tickle feather. And so we
mm.
have a giant feather that's kind of like, imagine a staff, but it's the stem of the feather, and it's big and poofy and
Yeah,
sparkly.
fantastic. And what do you do with that further?
Um,
Maybe it's implied, but I want you
first,
to tell me.
first, I threaded the creature.
Oh, you hold the feather menacingly towards it,
Hey, hold it. It's like,
and it
come on
unspokenly
now. We
it
gotta get
knows,
to the next
and
location.
the creature does this. They look a little worried, but they go,
Oh, you don't think I'm gonna do this? Oh, we can tussle. All right. I uh I put on my, what is it? More grabbing feather hands. I don't know.
like one of those like long reachers, or like a
No, 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 no. I'm retracting. On the stem itself are like built-in gloves that you slide
hmm,
your hands in to hold on to the feather. So I'm
yeah.
sliding my hands into that. And the as I do that, the feather kind of like glows and lights up, and all the little strands of the feather just kind of like have their own kind of
I
moving
think that
along.
I think this creature has experienced one of these feathers before, and almost with reflexively, it does this, pulls its arms to cover its armpits, and in that moment, the walls come together. They don't hurt anybody, and then they spwang out, and all of a sudden now the ship is rocketing in some direction that you don't know,
Oh,
and you have to rush over to the control room. And inside the control room, how do you see out? Is there a big window and you can see all space around you, or is everything on a Dance Dance Revolution screen?
it's all telescopes.
So wait,
It's
so wait a minute.
terribly
You,
it's like, wait a second. Oh, wait, and then we gotta
so,
go over
but then
there.
you have to jump on the button while trying to look through a telescope
No, there's another person who's like
to
telling
there.
us what's going on as they're looking through all the we have the
So you have
telescope
telescope
jumper, we
operators.
have the jumper,
Okay.
and I'm
Is there, and there's one jumper.
um yeah, well, we technically have two because they need to take shifts because
Okay. Okay.
jumping's a lot of work.
Got it.
They have like uh beautiful calves, like the best.
Believe me, I know what that's like. All right, you are in the control room. You run into the control room, and there are dozens of pinholes that lead out to telescope ends, but from inside the ship that just looks like a bunch of different holes to look into. And there are people, crew members, moving from one hole to the next hole, and one of them's yelling, "Where are we going? Where are we headed?" There is one of the crew members goes, uh, "Captain, uh, we can't see anything. Um, there's no visibility out into space. What do you do?"
Oh. Hmm.
Well, I'm going to change this. There's one crew member wearing sunglasses, trying to look through all the viewfinders. He's like, "We can't see anything."
um oh boy. I
I wanted to make,
gotta
wanted to make my puzzle a little more obvious.
I'm gonna uh uh walk over and then pull they have the blind shades.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pull the string and it opens up.
He pulls the strings open, and he goes, "Oh, right." Uh, and he looks at his face, and he starts shouting out commands. We gotta move. We gotta turn left. And what do you
um left foot, let's stomp.
do? And so you start stomping on the button with your left foot. "Hi, my name is Joe, and I work in a button factory." Uh, and you're able to uh, move the ship and get it to turn left. And another crew member says, "Captain, stop! We've got to stop the ship. There is um, millions of stardust gems floating outside, and I think we can get them." What do you do?
Okay. I'm gonna say initiate. Um, oh, I can't think of good words right now, but initiate the net, release the netting, and on the handles of the ship, spiral out like these giant like fish nets. You know.
Nice, nice. So you head into the cargo room, and you've kind of gone into the cargo room, and this is a space full of tubes and shelves full of canisters. Everything is tube shaped, canister shaped, cylindrical, um,
Oh, just
similar
pneumatic
similar
tubing.
to the ship, similar to the telescopes, etc. It's similar to the button that they stomp on, and so you can see through other telescopes in this room that all the nets have deployed out, um, and have wrapped themselves around all of the cargo. The nets pull in all the cargo, all of the stardust gems, and all of a sudden, out of the stardust gems pops a dust. I got to come up with something that sounds fun. Stardust gembats.
Gem bats.
Yep, flapping, sparkling just like the stardust gems, but flapping all over. Now they're inside your cargo hold. What do you do? They seem to be reacting to all the light in here.
Oh. Um, I turn uh black light on.
You switch the lighting from fluorescent or incandescent to black light,
Yeah.
and all the bats uh, swarm up to the ceiling and start hanging on the roof. And you can start collecting them in tubes if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have one of our. It's like a vacuum, basically, and then just bring it to.
And it converts them quantumly into they can then fit into a
Oh,
canister.
I just shoot him back out.
Oh, you just pop them back out. Okay.
Yeah,
You
the
pop them
bats
back out
are
into space.
they produce the gems, but they don't help us at all.
There you go. There you go. And now, with a great reward of gems on board, with the bats expelled, you cruise in your spaceship off to your next adventure. So,
Nice.
uh, yeah, so just a little bit of like taking a minute in each room, trying to come up with a thing to
Yeah.
focus on and play with, and then move on.
Yeah, the we can't see anything really had me like I was
Well,
gonna say
and
turn on the sun.
yeah. Well, that's that difference of like I was like, okay, yeah, I created too wide of a possibility of what you could
Yeah.
do in the space, like too open-ended, and potentially too much back and forth. Like that's where you'd be like, oh, I'll look through the scopes. Everything looks, like, what do I do? Like, then
Mhm.
in a normal game, you'd be like, I make a perception check or something like that.
Yeah.
The thing to interact with should be more obvious in an explore rooms game, because you're not trying to it's not that you're not working brain muscles, but you're working 5-year-old brain muscles. uh
Yeah.
and it's just kind of fun to maybe interact with a thing to move the plot forward, or move
Yeah.
the
Another thought I had with that is that like I was noticing it myself as I was playing, but like I wasn't really asking questions back,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know? So cuz then you said, "Oh, they're wearing sunglasses." Like, "Oh, I never asked what they looked like."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like I feel like maybe in more serious games or like other games, like you ask like the details so you can figure out
Mhm.
more, or it depends
Well,
on how the GM runs it. But like in terms of like, oh, you're playing with a kid, the kid's probably not gonna think about asking,
clarifying questions.
yeah, clarifying questions.
No, and I think that's something you can teach. And that's something that, as we get to more complex versions of this game or add modularity to it, like I could explore, like,
Yeah, you could do something simple like on the to open the chest, they have shapes. It's like, what shapes do they have?
right,
Yeah,
right,
or something. I don't even know if that's I don't know if that's hard or easy. Or
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
but
and
too
it's and,
far.
it, and I think, again, for a lot of people, you're playing with kids, and you kind of get to
Mhm.
know what their likes are and what their developmental stages are and what's going to be hard for them and not hard for them. So it's not like you have to learn this game. Most people aren't going to learn this game to be able to entertain anybody and everybody, right?
Right. Very specific.
Very specific. You use this in very specific ways. I got an email from somebody who had picked up the books and was like, asking me to um, just tell me a story about how his son in particular likes to dress up as a knight or pretend that their Ruminant is that them as a Ruminant has knight's armor on, has a backpack. On the backpack hangs a little blue Triceratops, and some of the things that kid likes. So it's like you just have to build a world that suits that one kid. You just have to
Mhm.
like you just need to prompt things that they're already going to respond to in positive ways. And so it's not like, you again, You don't need to know how to run this for anybody and everybody. You need often to run this for one kid, and not for hours and hours on time at a time, but for like 10 minutes while we're on a walk, or, waiting for something to happen, or before bed, right? This isn't, there were times when we'd be walking and I'd be like, I can't think of another thing. My, like, or
Yeah,
my brain just
brain's
wasn't
gone.
working. And
Yeah.
that's fine too. Like, so it's like, even with, I know what it's like to like just be at the end of your like energy. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
this isn't a campaign game.
right. Could you add like just lists of stuff, for the parent? You're just like,
Yeah,
"Here's just stuff," you know?
yeah.
I
So
wonder if that's helpful to just be like
yeah, I mean, I
the
think
magic button, or it's literally just adjective with noun, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, I think that that's one of the things I did in the core book, or in the Let's Go to Rumino, and in the fantasy book, was that I tried to
Oh, yeah.
create a card draw version of this, where you could draw, sort out a deck of cards into the four suits, and then when you pull one from each deck, you'd pull what I did. You do spade for the room to reveal the room because you're digging with a spade.
Yep.
Uh, heart for the one thing, the heart of the puzzle.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it would just be like, yeah. So if you're in a swamp and there's a scarecrow, what do you do? Uh, you know, uh, and so maybe you speak to it, and so then it gives you directions you desire, uh, and a straw key, that sort of thing. So like, sometimes it can be so simple to just get the ball rolling. Like, anyway, but yeah, so like those little prompts. So I've tried tables, or I've inserted tables. I've inserted little story seeds that are like, hey, here's a problem. Here's the puzzle. Here's the one thing you put in the room, and the solution you're looking for, the action you want to see them take. You can decide what to put in the room, or what room
Mhm.
they're in, and then what you decide what the result is. Or what they get, the prize they get. So yeah, I mean, I've tried a bunch of different things. I don't know if I have empirical data yet to know what's been the easiest for people to kind of,
Right.
because with every system, no matter what it is, right, you've got to get people over a certain number of hurdles.
Yep.
Um, and if that's time, if you have to gather a lot of people in a room at a table. And so this game doesn't have a lot of the barriers that a lot of other games have. You're usually not don't have to schedule time with your toddler. They're attached to your
Uh,
hip, right?
Yeah. They are there.
um, in fact, I say it in some of my marketing that like, this is the game for when your players can't sit still at a table, right? Um,
Mhm.
and so then it's like, all right, what's something I can do to prompt? How do I think what maybe I need to do more of is maybe a book of just door rooms, of like, how do I just spark? How do I just create that first kind of spark of ideas to get the game started?
Right.
Um, and that um, from there maybe they can take it further, or I don't know. And
Yeah. I mean, I would think like great for kids, but then it could also really help with like people exploring improv, because it's very much just like, all right, here is the thing, do something with it.
yeah,
What is this? Yeah, I'm thinking of like, Im- improv sets when they're like, all right, give us a noun, and then someone out
yeah,
yells out aardvark, and then everybody like scrambles to think of a
yeah,
scene with aardvark in it,
yeah. Well, and the tough part about that is you got an antagonistic crowd who's trying to stump you.
Right.
You don't have that here. Um,
No,
but I was
but
just
like, but
yeah,
the antagonist in this sense is like, you're tired. It's your own
Yeah.
self.
the,
It's your own
the
brain that's
the
just like,
voice in your head that says
no.
you're that was dumb.
Yeah.
I did I you know it's fun as I've made more books and try and figure out like how to set things up or how to you know in each of the theme books I have this overview page that has like the three locations that
Mhm.
they can visit, and I probably should have turned those into like this overview page into a door room. It's like, all right, there are three doors. One has a moon on it, one has a star on it, one has a note on it. Which one do you want to go to? And kind of make that something that prompts to even how do you like start the book? How do you start playing in these stories?
Mhm.
So, you know, um, so that's the design element that I'll maybe improve for next time. And I'm not afraid to go back and redesign some of these so that the like next print run, I've got maybe change that into a door room and improve it. I don't need a second edition or third edition. I move fast,
Yeah.
light and agile. Um, but yeah, it's like I said, uh it's it's got a few as simple as it is. I do try and find like little anchors that help me design the next thing or like you talked about creativity and constraints, right? Like trying to find constraints, trying to find boxes to fit in or the boxes that fit and the things that don't.
Right.
um and I think some of that challenge of creating anything. Like when I first created this book, like I was like, I don't know how much is enough. I don't know how much is feels worth any amount of money, right? To charge people.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, um, in some cases, or like, do I need to fill like 100 pages for it to like, does the page count what makes it worth something, right? And even when these ones are smaller, I'm like, how
Yeah.
many creatures can I fit in here that it feels like it's enough, right?
Right.
Um, and so I guess I try and find the anchor points, and then I try and just I build around them and twist them, but I try and keep it within that, and um, that if the anchor point's worth it, then whatever I create around it that kind of enhances it or calls back to it. Um, so it doesn't feel like I'm throwing brand new things at them every time. Um, yeah,
Yeah, throwing new things. Oh, I had a thought and then it escaped me. Um, yeah, it was like almost one of the big challenges would be getting the like parent more engaged into the creativity,
yeah,
you know, where like it's really just saying like, oh, it's okay to be silly, or it's like it's okay that this doesn't make sense, you
yeah.
know.
And I do. I've probably heard back from more dads in terms of just letting me know that like, hey, I played this with my kids this weekend and it went really well, or this, that, or the other. Um, and maybe there's more guys in tabletop playing, or because I'm a man, I've got more of a male audience that follows some of my stuff. I don't know, but I think about it like dad jokes are silly, right? It's just like when your kid goes, "I'm tired," and you're like, "Hi, I'm dad." Like saying dumb stuff is comes pretty natural to some dads. You just
Yeah.
say the next thing that comes to your mind.
Mhm.
Um, and so I do think that it does require a little bit of permission or like perspective shifting of like your kids are really just happy to be engaging in some sort of play with you.
Right.
And anything you share with
Your
them,
kids just enjoy time with you.
just enjoy time with you. Well, there's a difference too, because there's times when I'm like with my kids, but I'm focused on a task, right? I'm focused on getting them to getting them signed up for a thing, or we're at the doctor and I'm making sure that they're checked in, and then I'm on my phone checking email, right? There's
Hmm.
plenty of times that we're with our kids, but not with them. And they know the difference. They absolutely know the difference. And so if you can spend a little bit of time throwing nouns and adjectives at them that are silly and fun, and that they get to respond with nouns and adjectives that kind of interact and bounce around what you've created, there's a lot of joy and a lot of like appreciation that they feel from that.
Hmm.
And um the thing I like to think of is that when, as my kids get older, that they're more interested in bouncing things around with me, you
Yeah.
know, the conversations around troubles that they're having or feelings that they're having.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I can claim that telling RPG, like using Explore Room RPGs with your kids early, means that they're going to tell you when they're struggling with, you know, um, peer pressure or, life choices later. But creating a ritual with them, or creating things and stories and memories with them, the act of playing catch with words,
Hmm.
um, certainly set some sort of foundation so that in the future, if you keep up the practice and they keep up the practice, that some of that probably is easier.
Yeah, it creates. I mean, it creates a stronger bond, because
Yeah.
you're sharing these thoughts and ideas together. Um, Another thing was like, what if there was some kind of like a reward, system? I don't want to say system because that sounds heavy, but like going, what I'm thinking is like, so Food and Evil that I'm working on, we had our first play session Monday,
Yeah.
and when we were playing it, we just we just started adding the rule of like, if you make a pun, you get a plus 1. And it just like, it made it so it encouraged the stupid and just like all the,
Yeah.
because it naturally makes puns. I mean,
Yeah.
you played it
Yeah.
with me. Yeah,
Oh,
so
it
you
was
know.
food. There are a few categories that are they're plentiful with puns, and food is absolutely probably one of the most plentiful, because there's so many categories, so many words, so many types of foods,
Yeah.
and it's so worth it. So much payoff.
Yeah.
Um,
So but like that idea of just like encouraging the play
yeah.
somehow, how can that be?
Well, and so there's a couple of things that other things that I try to solve in very simple ways. So rewards are plentiful. Um, if you put a creature in a room, the kiddos want to befriend it, right? And now it might be their pet. If you put candy in a room or some sort of treat, they want to keep it for later or put it in their bag, and they can do. And so sometimes the reward is the room itself and the themes that you give them, and when they explore. When they take an action, that when you mediate it, that step where you decide what happens from the action, if you make that fun and exciting, there's an intrinsic, like there's enough there for them to like, no, 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 right?
Mhm.
Um, and so part of, for kids, gathering things, like owning things, having things. Can I take that? Can I? So Rumino's a bit of a game of just hoarding. Um, but
Collect-a-thon.
here, here's my ingenious inventory system. You can only bring what you remember, and kids are forgetful. And
Oh, no.
and here's the thing is like, even if they could remember everything, they only take one action at a time. They only do one thing at a time. There's no way to break the game with OP like spells or anything, because I'm putting a button in front of you, and if you want to push that button with hurricane tornado magic, that's okay. You did that. You push the button, and now you move to the next room. Is tornado magic going to solve the next puzzle? We don't know. Um, so there's a sense of like even though it's a room to room, like and it's expansive, like you can it's abundance. I can say yes to everything and they can have whatever they want. But when it comes to solving a puzzle, they're only going to use the thing that they remember, right? They're only going to
So
my
interesting.
my daughter's had millions of pets, but she only remembers one of them, and that's the one that when I say, "Okay, who's with you?" and she says, "It's this pet," right? So it's kind of is like their brains can only hold so much information, and so like you never have to keep track of anything.
Right.
You don't have to have a character sheet that has lists of things that they found because if you've given them a dozen badges that let them jump really high or climb walls or fly, they're only going to keep the one that they remember. And they're going to say, "Oh, I used this patch." And you're like, "Well, I didn't give you that patch yet." Like, you don't want to start an argument. You're like, "Yeah, you have that patch. Sometime in our journey, you gained this thing. You can have it if you remember it." Um, so that also means you don't have to remember it. Like,
Yeah, what
and
do you have again? Oh, I have this. Okay, cool.
I had so kids will find oh man I did a table at Gamehole Con with four kids and I gave them the door room, the very first room. Oh no, actually this might have been a play test with two kids. Anyway, I've got a couple of stories with this. With one of them play tests, I said, "All right, you're in a room and there are three doors." And I described the door. And what the older sibling said to the younger sibling, "Don't go near them, they're probably trapped," which told me that their parent had trained them on D&D and and they've had one experience with a trapped door and they never forget it. There's it is interesting how like we talked about like you can remember the negatives, right? How painful a negative can be in your mind that it like
Yeah.
changes behavior. That they had one bad experience with a door and now they don't trust doors, right? That's I think that's happened in my
Such a
campaigns too.
silly thing.
It is so silly. But then I had another game where I was playing at a table at a convention, and I say, "Okay, you have these doors." And in my head, I needed all the kids to pick one door together. So if they individually went up to a door, it was locked. And if they went up to this door individually locked, it wasn't until they would like gravitate towards one door that it would open. And I had one kid go, "All right, well, I take out of my pocket, I turn like a magic um, thingamabob that has a retractable grappling hook on it, and on the end is a key, and I'm going to whip it at the door, and it's going to unlock the door." Right? So they came up with this thing, and so like permissive, like yeah, you do that. Oh, but for some reason it doesn't work. It's almost as if it's not a mechanical lock that's keeping this door shut. Hmm.
Mm.
You know, like so I can say, yeah, you do that. Like you can have whatever you want, but in this case, I've got one solution and you got to find it, right? So it's I don't know. I like the ability to say yes, yes, bud, or no, bud, or you know,
Mhm.
um, uh,
No and.
yes. So it's
Yes, but. Oh, that was a yes, but because it's
that
like
was
yes, that happened,
yes.
but.
So it's I like the encouraging the things that come out of their minds and um, letting it play and have an effect in the space in some way. But that's not always the way to move forward. And so they can swing from a wall or they can bounce around or they can ride have jetpacks. And in fact, one of the things, for instance, in our little story, we created a spaceship, right? Now, in addition to your backpack where you can pull things out of, or your magic shape changing gum, which you could turn into a simple object, now you have a spaceship that you could cruise around into new rooms, right?
Mm.
Now you can use your control room and something in there to solve a puzzle. You could use your springy engine room to solve a puzzle. You've got your cargo room that you could pull something out of a can and be like, "Oh, I remember we have this thing." You pull it out and you use that. It's just a toolbox for more imagination, right?
Mhm.
the kids already start with a bottomless backpack and a magic shape changing gum, just so it facilitates basically their bottomless imagination being able to pull something out and try that on whatever's in front of them. A
Mhm.
spaceship is just a specific shaped version of that, right?
Right.
When we get into rigs, I have ideas for like, well, let's have a rig where a place where you repair or get a mech, a robot that's fallen down. It's got rooms inside it that you go and get it working again. And now you
Mhm.
have a robot to run around in and explore Roomino in. So,
That's
or
fun.
it could be a pirate ship or or an airship or whatever it is. Like it's um the the base mechanics of this being like Legos. These are rooms, and each room has a thing that you can solve in it, and that activates the room. Now you put a bunch of rooms together, and now you've got a
You're like
spaceship.
building a thing. Yeah.
Yep. And now you're flying through space, and now you're in a room that has a planet in it, and now you're going to talk to that planet, or you're going to go down to that planet. So it's like
Yeah.
rooms can take any size or shape, but it gives you some sort of like the physics of this game is you're in a room.
That's
Uh,
really cool actually. The thought of like, oh, actually technically your ship in space is a room.
mhm.
That's blowing my mind. It's like, oh, wait
uh,
a second. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's like, and then, but like starting so simple where it's like you're in a blank room and there's this one thing, and then the progression of that
yeah,
into space,
yep,
that's
yeah.
really great. Yeah.
Well, and I think that I mean, if you think about Dungeons and Dragons, or even when we were playing Good Soup, right?
Mhm.
Which was a fantastic game of going to different locations, and had a similar sense there of like, okay, you'd go to a location and you would meet somebody there, and that person, and you would be looking for where are you going to go to try and find something. You have a puzzle that's unsolved, and you're going to go here to look for it, and you would either find it there or you would get another puzzle opened, right?
Mhm.
You'd open a new loop. And so then, I think for good soup, there's that ingredient loop. I need to find this ingredient. So I'm going to go here, do this thing, find the ingredient. When I find the ingredient, I close that loop, and now I've got another ingredient. I open that loop. I got to go to another place. I meet another character. I try and solve what they need. I roll, and I either get the thing I'm looking for, or I open a new loop. Right.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, create having a core loop that is robust enough to kind of one loop by itself is interesting, and then you stack a bunch of them together and you start telling little stories, right?
Mhm.
um, and what I loved about food and evil, which I haven't once said food and evil since that one night, uh,
Mhm.
uh, or good soup is oh, what was the cool thing I was going to say about it? I was going to lavish them with positivity. Um, is that you sort of start off with your arc, right? Here's your story. Here's the story you're going to go through.
Mhm.
Now play it out, right?
Right.
You're going to create a food and impress Guy Fiery, right? For that. So that's your story arc. I'm telling you what the arc is. Now fulfill it, through these mechanics. And I think that could be another, I mean, to some extent, maybe what I'm doing here is you've got a flower who needs to bloom. Here's the three things you need. Go solve these puzzles. Go explore these rooms, right? So yes, it's you can kind of come up with that little story seed pretty easily, or that kind of story arc that you want to try and tell with your kiddos pretty easily, and then build some rooms to make that come to life a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, I have I've probably spent more time writing books and trying to conceive of these things than I did when I was running them with my kids, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I think one time my son wanted one that was like a little scarier. He's like, I want a little bit more danger, Dad. And my daughter's like, I do not.
No.
So they landed in a space and there was T-Rexes roaming all over this base. And Afton's like, I am not going near them. I was like, all right, Miles, ahead of you is a room and it's full of T-Rexes that you got to get through. Afton, behind you is a crawl space. And you think you see a box of T-Rex food.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know, there's probably video games like this where there's one character going through the main mission and there's another character going through a side mission.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, she goes and gets the food and she goes through a tunnel underneath, safe and sound, and like throws up food over here so that the T-Rexes go over here, and then my older kiddo can run through.
Yeah.
And has something else to do. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's so many stories we've done together in ways that we've just played naturally to just accommodate wherever their minds are at or whatever their
Mhm.
um I, one of my favorite stories is when my son is 13 now, way beyond explore rooms age, way beyond. The A few months ago he was playing it was like the a Zelda game, and he could not beat the boss. It was some level boss. Was
Yeah.
just frustrated, like tried it a bunch of times, couldn't get it. And but we had to go to a piano lesson. And so I was like, all right, why don't we just get in the car? I know it's frustrating. Let's whatever, we'll go to piano lesson. He was just frustrated. He's like, Dad, tell me an explore room where I can beat up all the bosses. And they can't where I can't lose. And so I gave him a little dumb like Super Mario type level where he jumped
Yeah.
on Goombas and just got to stomp around. And then by the time we got to the lesson, he was feeling better, and we had a little story. And then when he got back in, he was like, "Can we keep telling that story?"
Oh. Yeah.
And so it's like it was just a little tool for like, let's dip into our imagination a bit. Let's pop into a room and smash some Goombas and then regulate emotion a little bit and whatever. So I don't know how to codify all of that into books that help people necessarily, but hopefully I'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah, no, this is great. You're making some really great stuff. And I love this chat. This chat has been really great talking about just like I mean, I don't have kids, so getting this experience like your perspective is really great and learning about that. Do you want to recap the game? Tell us about the rigs and races.
Yeah. So the core book is Let's Go to Roomino, and it is a one room, one puzzle kind of scope of game. And it's got a lot of different tools to set up the game, like how you give your kids the bottomless backpack and the shape changing gum and snacks and all that kind of stuff. So it sort of sets up just jumping into Rumino. Hence the title, Let's Go to Rumino. It's all the things you need to go to Rumino. And then the two sequels are Rigs and Races. And Rigs is about being able to dial up and down complexity, whether that be by abstracting the puzzle to where you're saying, hey, there's a bunch of things we can't see, to making it more concrete. He's wearing sunglasses, um, dialing that up and down for your kiddos, pulling them across different rooms, having groups of rooms that start telling stories or little miniature arcs, and then being able to build spaceships or build a tree house or create spaces together made up of a bunch of rooms that then you could use to explore other spaces. And that's rigs. And then races is introducing success and failure in silly and fun and cooperative ways, making it feel less big to not get something right and to fail sideways into silly, crazy, fun experiences, to have do-overs, and the ability to trigger a fail safe, so that if something's you failed something, you're going to feel safe, on the other side of it. So um, that's those are the next kind of evolutions or modules. I want to build this very modularly so that you can choose to add on the next module, um, or don't have to worry about it. You've played with the first setting and now you're on to D&D or some other thing that you want to play. That's fine too. Um, and so those that two books, Rigs and Races, are going to be the focus of my next Zine Month project, which I'm crowdfunding on Kickstarter. Um, and I hope, I mean, last year I had a lot of fantastic people come around the Let's Go to Roomino project. It funded really quickly. It funded to a level I didn't expect it to. And it won, or it got an Emmy nomination, which is, I didn't know at the time how big a deal that was, but it's a pretty big deal
Yeah.
to get a nomination. Um, and so I'm hoping that these two projects are kind of capture that same kind of interest and hope of being able to kind of bring kids along through the different stages of and different skill sets within role playing games, so that then they can graduate into any kind of role playing games that their parents might be interested in, whether it be trad games or story games or whatever. So um, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what people think of this project, and maybe they'll back it, or maybe they'll say, no, go back to the drawing board. We want something different.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great game. I had the link on the video this entire time, so if you're watching this, go check it out. Or just you can look up on Kickstarter Rigs and Races. I did that and it popped up. You
Or
chose the right
Rumino.
words. Or Roomino.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I had created this random name, and it's the only thing on Kickstarter named that, I think. And so I was like, I better put that name in this campaign too.
yeah. Yeah, no, this has been a really great chat. I'm Jordan. Uh, my next thing is we got a stream for Food and Evil on this channel. Next, this coming Monday on the 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna play the second session of our 3 session campaign, and where the players will be entering the soup dungeon, the dungeon of soup, um, guarded by the coast wizards. So hopefully they make it through that, and then
There are they in deep stew?
they're in deep stew. Yeah, it's chunky. Yeah. It, yeah, and then Food and Evil is coming out also for Z Month, but on Backer Kit. So go check that out. But yeah, thanks so much for chatting.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad I could talk about me and my stuff for a bunch of time. I hope I get a chance to talk more about your stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good one.